the station at Roy, with the 3 agent and 2 of the operators posing. L.H. Kai's, L.C. Wise, and H.E. Hudson, the first 2, were still working when I went to work at 43. Lester Wise was agent of Olympia, and his son was a dispatcher that I worked with for many years. See if I can back up. Yeah, notice that sign there. They were very proud of their union, the Order of Railroad Regulators. And you'll see many pictures of different stations with the operators posed by a sign that says solid ORT. They all belong to the Order of Railroad Regulators. And anybody that didn't belong was just blacklisted. And this is a much later picture in Roy, about 1972, of a rail fan special coming through the town. Is that building still there? I haven't noticed.
Yes.
Roy Theater? That's Roy. Looks like a historic place.
Was it the Great Northern that had the mountain goat?
The Great Northern had the goat, right?
Yeah. That showed up in New York City. That showed up in New York City. Maybe their owners were there. It was on West 57th Street. That symbol showed up in New York City.
Oh, the traffic office.
I don't know what it was. It looked like sort of maybe a clubhouse or something.
Okay, getting pretty close to home here. Lakewood.
Yeah.
The location of this is just north of 108th Street, where the what's known as the American Lake Line takes off, and that switch is still there.
Is it still there? Is it still there?
Oh, no. In fact, in my case, one thing I've got a picture on a slide of that piece of ground at Low Station. It's just, there's some kind of a building right in there, or business of some sort. The railroad's pretty long gone. But this is where the cutoff switch is to go down through Fort Lewis to Nisqually on the double track main line. And that's how the projected Amtrak route is going to be someday. Maybe. They have to make a connection in downtown Tacoma from Freedom Square across the Gavin. If they get that done, then Amtrak will come up this way. The Sounder commuter trains, this was a candidate. This spot here was a candidate to be the station for the commuter lines, but I understand they picked a location a little bit farther south. It's not far, but a little bit farther south. Well, this is a picture of the Lakeview station. With the train of tomorrow going by. General Motors built a demonstration train with the first Vista-Dome cars, toured it around the country trying to sell their locomotives and their car design. And it came up to Nisqually and then American Lake Line to Lakeview and then down into town through South Tacoma.
What year is that?
Um,
December 1947.
47.
According to your phone.
Yeah. That gentleman there, his name is Frank Emmerich. Does anybody here know him? They've been gone a long time now, but they lived out in this area. He was in show business before he went to the railroad, and he was on the same bill as Al Jolson. But he liked railroading, and he started out as a switchman, fell down and got an arm severed. He was so dexterous with that one hand that he had, he could tie a loop in a train or a string, just one. It took everybody else 2 hands, but he could do it with one. And he's getting a message being thrown off by the brakeman on the train of tomorrow. Now, does anybody here know Chuck Stillman, who's on Gravely Lake Drive? Yeah. Okay, that's Chuck right there. Oh. Holding his son Donnie, who's now, I guess, a vice president in the Automobile Workers Union. later changed to Fort Lewis. And I worked a couple days there during World War II. All of the railroads had passenger representatives coming out there trying to sell the soldiers tickets on their line. World War I, they ran commuter service for soldiers to go from what was known as American Lake then rather than Fort Lewis. This shows the special trains going, leaving American Lake, going downtown Tacoma, and then leaving Tacoma, coming back.
Was that the railway that went across the bridge? Go towards the country club?
The 15th Street Bridge? Yeah.
That was one.
Yeah,
That's
we wanted
where
to
was
Seattle, they go across that.
That's for soldiers. There was trestle there.
Where was the station at American Lake?
It's kind of on the far side of, or the south side of the Fort Lewis area, getting pretty close to where DuPont is now.
And around to the soldiers.
There was a spur line down into the DuPont Powder Works, and in the steam engine days, when the steam engine went down into where they were making this powder, they had to stop and lower that spark arrestor over their smokestack. So that was quite a unique feature of the American Lake line. And South Tacoma had a busy station. There's the Star Fuel Company there, and some nice old cars. This was a copy from a picture taken in 1928. Northern Pacific had all of their buildings photographed, then big albums, and I've got a set of them. One of the busy days for the telegraph operator at South Tacoma was on payday for the shop workers. He had to take their paychecks and go around through the shops and hand them out. And the South Tacoma shops was one of the three major locomotive shops in the Northern Pacific. They had South Tacoma, Livingston, Montana, and Brainerd, Minnesota, where they did the heavy repair work for their locomotives. And they had this row of big brick buildings. It's kind of amazing that none of them were saved. It might have something to do with the pollution that had accumulated over the years, but I never heard much of a fuss about tearing them down. They went down about 1973. And that's what they looked like from the ground after the shop had been closed. They went all the way from 56th Street to the Union Avenue overpass. And they did marvelous work there. This is an engine just coming out of the shops for an overhaul. And it's one of Northern Pacific's fine passenger engines. The NP was the pioneer in building this big, what they call a Northern type engine. And after the NP built this one, same age as I am, 1926. And most of the other railroads in the United States copied them and built the same kind. Number one.
Okay. That's okay.
They also built freight cars there. They built and repaired passenger cars in earlier days. This was a car they built in 1898, and it was a 99.99, and they put a cat of nine tails on the side of the car and then posed with it. The shops had their own little switch engine that did all of the, they had a lot of switching to do with all the freight cars and locomotives coming and going. It's the only engine I ever saw on the Northern Pacific that had the Monad trademark on the side of it. Usually it was just, now coming on down the hill to town, this was at 15th and A Street. They had the switching tower. You see those levers there. And the telegrapher there, by throwing these levers, could either send a train coming from, well, say Seattle or Auburn, either up the hill to South Tacoma or down into Union Station. And conversely, a train coming down the the hill, if he could send it over the drawbridge line. It was a drawbridge at 15th and 8th Street, and the track went on north out of town, or down into the half moon yard. And if a train coming down the hill wanted to go into the depot, they'd go by this tower, and then he'd line the switch from the back into the depot. And there was one of the operators, I won't mention his name, pulling on the lever. That was the first job I worked as a telegraph operator. Now, we've come down the prairie line, showing the stations there. They had a big civic celebration about opening the Point Defiance line. They had a special train that invited all of the civic dignitaries and even officials from other roads to ride this train, leaving Tacoma Union Depot at 10 in the morning, lunching at 9 or noon, and they came back on the prairie line. And then had a banquet at the commercial club. December 15th, 1914. All going south out of Tacoma on the Point Defiance line, the real key station was in Old Town, Garden Street. And the Garden Street crossed the track. And it was built to accommodate passengers when the line was first opened, and for a little while, one passenger train didn't stop there. And that's another system of delivering orders, a bamboo hook. The strings were a lot easier on the trainman's arms, but they couldn't use bamboo with a clip on it, put the orders in, and they put their arm through that.
What happened if they missed the stream? What happened if they missed the stream?
But if they miss the orders, what happens?
When they missed the orders,
Yeah, what happens then?
well,
They had to stop and back up?
they had to stop and go back and get the orders.
Never too often.
That is the first service I performed with the Northern Pacific. I used to ride my bicycle down on McCarver Street, and I was about 13 years old. I was down there on my bike one day. This hotshot passenger train from Portland came by. I'll show you a picture of it later with the steam engine. The string broke, and the orders went fluttering into the air, and the train went quite a ways by the station. And the operator saw me there with my bicycle. Hey, take these orders, ride your bike down and get them to the train. So I did.
You saved the day.
Yep. And McCarver Street was closed in 1962. Gary Emmons is sitting in the back row there. His father was operator there for a long time. And Gary, when he was 4 or 5 years old, would go down.
I grew up there. I literally grew up there.
Yep.
Right there. April the 6th, 1962 was the last day of Carver Street.
Now, Ed Burnson over there, as I mentioned, is another Northern Pacific veteran, so I've got lots of company here tonight to correct me when I'm wrong.
That was the last orders picked up there at Carver Street. I think Carson Hickey.
That's Carson Hickey right there.
Yeah.
And that's the water service man. He's got his service truck there, and as soon as the train went by, and at 8 o'clock, he shut off the water, and the station was done. What they did, they built a new station, and I think that's your dad?
Yeah, that's my dad.
Yep. Called UP Junction. This is where the track came out of the Union Pacific yard at 15th Street and entered the NP there, so they named it UP Junction. And they put in a remote control switching system for here so that the operator at UP Junction could line all the switches in and out of the Union Station. And these are all the officials standing there. This is the first train to get his orders at UP Junction. And you can see